Hi, I'm Hayley from Paramore, and you're watching Behind the Brand.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian Elliott. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Brand. Today I'm here with the amazing Hayley Williams. Hayley, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
I usually ask people, how'd you get this job?
Oh man, this started a long time ago. I was 12 or 13 when I joined my band, and we were just kids in school, you know. And I come from a really small town in Mississippi, and I was sort of the only person in my school that really was interested in music. So by the time I was old enough to know anything, I knew that I wanted to sing and write songs and play with my friends in a band. You know, I wanted to be a part of something. So it wasn't until I moved to Nashville, I met my friends that also wrote. And that was like this revelation for me, to meet other people my age who wanted to do the same thing as me. I felt less alone, you know? So, yeah, we didn't really waste any time. We started after school. On every Thursday we went to school because it was like this homeschool kid thing.
How old were you at this time?
I was like 13. Yeah, I was in 7th grade. It was serious to us. It was already a career for us, you know. And I think our first gig was the school talent show.
So let's go back to the time where you were 12, 13, just getting started. Did you know that you wanted to be a pro?
Yeah, I think I did. I mean, I didn't know how possible it was. I just thought, I'm going to have fun doing it. You know, I felt like I had seen, you know, I would see movies like The Temptations or even Spice World. And I just thought, well, they're all having fun with their friends making music, and it's like, it's their thing. It's their job. And I wanted that, you know, I wanted to feel like, I wanted that us against the world kind of thing, which is just sort of inherently part of starting a band. You just kind of have this, it's like this very innocent gang mentality. And we started that way. And then the next thing we knew, we were in a van on the road. So
were you writing music, or were you like aspiring singer, like you were, I don't know, in your church, or you're like singing on the street corner, or like always in the shower? How did it get started?
Well, I did sing in church, but I was really shy as a kid. My parents separated pretty early on, and I was an only child for a while until my dad, in his second marriage, had my sisters. And I just loved music. I had this belief that I could do it, but I needed to get past. Like I didn't really feel like proving it to anyone. I just kind of knew that it could happen. So I sang in church a few times. I had a friend that I would sing with for whatever random talent shows there were, if I got up the courage to do it. But it really wasn't until I started writing songs, and I think writing gave me. I just realized I had a voice and I had my own mind, because it's one thing to mimic your favorite singers and sing along in the car, but it's another thing to have your own voice.
Yeah. What do you think it is about music that either heals us or it resonates with us? I mean, it sounds like you went through a really hard time with your parents' divorce. And did music help you through some of that? Yeah,
I mean, being a kid and having your parents split up isn't all that unique, but it's still heavy, you know. And I think for me, I always loved sad songs, and I didn't know why, but I think I really picked up on a lot of the heartache that was going on in my family, and I didn't know how to say it myself. I mean, I was like 6, you know, but all these other songs did, and so those were the ones that resonated with me from an early age. And when I did start writing lyrics, there was a lot of really sad stuff, and it was a lot of injustice, you know, and there was some angst, a lot of angst and early Paramore. But, I think it's healing because it's this space that you have. I mean, I think if you're a writer, then it's that moment that you have to yourself to really think through how you feel about something, and it's uninterrupted. You know, it's your own moment with those feelings and to make peace with them.
Yeah, and it's somewhat cathartic, right? Like,
yeah.
So you're getting your feelings out into lyrics or
yes.
into a melody or a harmony.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing for me about writing a song is fitting my feelings into a melody or into a rhythm, because I'm a very rhythmic singer. I think most of the stuff that inspires me as a writer is syncopated rhythms, and some of the songs we wrote early on, I ended up almost like rapping in this. Misery Business was one of our first big singles, and there's so many words, but it felt so good to say them along with this rhythm that gave every word more power. And I think, I don't know, that feels really good.
So what comes first with you? Is it the lyrics, or is it the rhythm, or is it the melody, or?
Well, with Paramore, we tend to write music first, and then I kind of go and I listen to that. I might learn it on guitar, learn it on piano, and I kind of live with it alone, because I do tend to write words in secret, because like I said, that's my space to really feel something out. But
you keep it like in a diary or journal, or?
Yeah, it feels better to physically write out the words.
You and like Eminem, right? You've got like your notebooks and you're working on.
People do compare me to Eminem quite often. They don't, but I like writing it because I think it's that tangible release. I mean, I do type everything out too. But
sometimes like you're traveling, or you're getting coffee or whatever, and it's like you think of something, it's good.
Yeah, so you need to jot it down.
I'm old school like that too. I like to I have like my to-do list on a physical list. I like to cross it off.
Don't you think that when you write your to-do list, you do it like better than if you were to type it out? I'm that way.
Yeah, I'm kinetic learner, so like when I do, I learn. So the act of writing helps me remember somehow. It sinks in deeper.
Yep. Me too. I'm the same way. I definitely, I like also, like if I am writing out lyrics and I don't like something, I like scratching it out, like seeing it scribbled over more than just deleting it, because I really shut it down, if I'm scribbling over it. But anyway, yeah, writing physically just feels better.
So we're talking off camera a little bit about Karen Carpenter. Who are some of your other kind of inspirations?
Oh man, I feel like I was lucky to, my parents were really young when they had me, so I feel like I got to listen to a lot of cool music as a kid, and I'm able to reference things that most times people that are a little bit older than me will reference, and I feel lucky for that. So I mean, I listen to a lot of Shaka Khan, and and the classic rock with my dad, of course, but I feel also really lucky that my granddad was into soul and funk music. So that's where like the Shaka Khan and like Temptations, or, a lot of Motown stuff, Elvis even,
Cool. And, you're petite, but you've got this amazing projection. You've got this killer voice. I mean, it reminds me of some of these power voices of, whether it's Shaka Khan or, any of these, amazingly dynamic, powerful voices. Is that like your alter ego? Like you said, you're kind of a little bit like an introvert. Does the extrovert come out on stage? How does that work?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we've spent 2 years off at this point just writing, and I feel like I've gotten to know my introverted self a lot more in the past 2 years than I had. I hadn't really been given the chance on the road because we're surrounded by so many people, and I do think I'm good at that. It's not that I think I'm better off in a room by myself. I think I love to listen to people's stories, and I like engaging and connecting, and that's a beautiful thing about being in a band that travels and meeting fans that become sort of like your family. But I think on stage it does give me a chance to let her out, like let that side of me that I really think I need that expression. I need to complete those, like the things that I'm writing in my journal and the things that I'm writing to music. It's one way to express that feeling, but to fully realize it, I think, is to perform it and really exercise those demons.
A lot of people who watch this, they're creative. They're artists or future artists. Mm-hmm. They've got some sort of side hustle or some dream that they've got. Yeah. Maybe let's get a little bit personal and talk about some of the things that you got wrong in order to get it right. And maybe talk to this audience about, like, hang in there, it takes time. Whatever your advice is, what would you say to those young people just getting started?
Man, I mean, we started really young, and I think one thing I wouldn't do anything different, because I feel like I'm here sitting on this stool because I did things the way that I did, and the band did things the way that we did. But I do wish, in a way, I had been a little bit more fearless about my position early on, because, there weren't a lot of girls in the scene when when we were kids. I mean, there were plenty of girls to look up to. There was Gwen Stefani, there was Brody from Distillers, and Shirley Manson, and all these wonderful females. I mean, even Debbie Harry, Cyndi Lauper. But I didn't have anyone my age around me that was a female. I was just on a tour with like guys twice my age, and I really I think I didn't show it on stage, but I doubted myself a lot. I really did, and I felt that loneliness sort of translating into something that it shouldn't have.
You doubted yourself, like your skills, like you could actually do it, or like
I just doubted whether or not people would ever take me seriously.
Like imposter syndrome, like what am I doing?
Yes, we were just talking about this. Yeah. Yes, imposter syndrome. I have it. I have imposter syndrome. I'm just gonna accept it because I think that I'm ready to get over it. But I mean, I'm 28 and I've been in a band for 13 years, and I'm just now realizing that that's really what it is. You know, it's feeling like maybe I didn't do enough to deserve where I got, or someone's gonna catch me and realize that it's not real. I don't know.
Yeah, where does that come from though? Is that just like what we manufacture in our own minds, or?
I wish I knew where imposter syndrome came from.
Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, me too sometimes. I feel like I have to pinch myself like, wow, this is amazing. Am I really here with you? And I think probably a lot of people watching can relate to that. But like, is that self-made, like self-sabotage, or is that outside influence?
You know what's funny is I do think that even though it was lonely to be the only girl coming up in a scene that was tough already, you know, you're in a van traveling around, you're not really sleeping well, you're playing shows to half-filled or maybe not even half-filled rooms. Like, I do think that my age actually helped me, and as I've gotten older, I think we get older and we really start to overthink things. You know, we know a little bit more, our experiences kind of stack up, and there's more to think about, and maybe that means there's more to doubt about. So I don't know. There's days that I think back and I'm like, God, I'm so glad there's so many other females for me to lean on. Like my friend Beth from Best Coast I text her all the time just to kind of get her opinion on something, or just to feel like I've got, I don't know, just a female that understands. But I wish I had that as a kid, but I also look back and I think, man, I was so young and I was green, and so I just did what I felt. Yeah. And I think you got to remember to just do what you feel and follow that, even, you know, when you get older and there's a lot more to pay attention to.
What do you say to those who, you know, they're in the struggle and they don't know, gosh, how much longer should I keep gigging, or like keep just grinding it out, whether they've got, you know, they're singing on YouTube, you know, or they're playing the local coffee shop or a club. Like, how long do you give this great idea, your passion, until, because a lot of people say, when are you going to get this real job? Especially the doubters, you know, who may not, maybe you're this diamond in the rough, you know, like you really haven't completely come into your own yet. But like, how do you push through that?
It's interesting to think about what makes me want to keep going, and what might make me want to quit. Because my band, we've been through so many crazy, we've been through a lot of hard times, and we've been through we've had so many successes and these great achievements, but that shouldn't be the fuel either to keep going. I think, to be really honest, 2 years ago, I was ready to quit. I just thought, I'd been through a lot personally, and the band had been through a lot, and I doubted if I could write a record that I loved as much as our self-titled record. And I just thought, oh, man, like I've been stressing this for 13 years. I've been working my ass off for 13 years, since before I had a car, before I had, anything that was mine. The only thing that was mine was this music, was this bond that I had with my friends, these shows that we played. I really felt like maybe it was time to hang it up and find out what other things I could be good at, whether that's like just being starting a family, or, doing hair dye or whatever it was. But I think my dad always said, if you're not happy, just hang it up. But I have been unhappy, and I didn't hang it up, and I'm so glad that I didn't, you know. And I mean, I guess I would tell my kid, you should be happy. But I feel now, I look back at like even the last 2 years, and I think about all the songs we've written for the album that's upcoming, and I just think like I pushed myself to a place where I could still hang it up if I wanted to. It's a choice. You have to know you have the choice. But I think it's good to see what you're made of, and I really kind of have been finding that out more recently. I think more so now than I had in our whole career so far, you know.
That's really good advice. I want to underscore that because it's subtle. Maybe if you're watching, you may have missed it. If I could put quotes around what you just said, I would maybe put, I can do hard things. And I think you're right. It's a really important lesson that you're talking about, which is when the going gets tough, you know, maybe 99% of us, we just feel like quitting, giving up. And it's really easy to give up, especially when it's all your choice. But maybe there is something better if you go just a little bit beyond that, you know, stretching yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Going for it. And really, I guess what you're saying too is you have to evaluate, what do you have to lose?
Yeah,
you know, like, what's the risk versus reward? What do they say? They say failure is not an option.
Yeah.
But really, failure has to be an option.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Because in order to have success, you've got to have the failure to even know what success feels like, right?
That's so true.
The trick is not to fail too far that you can't come back and play another day.
Yeah.
You know?
I think knowing that I had the choice was probably the most empowering moment for me. Like when I realized that, you know, and even talking to Taylor, my bandmate, and him saying, you know, I think it also helps to have good friends and have that kind of support around you. But just having him say, you know, you have a choice, and I'm not going to be mad at you either way. I'm still going to be your friend. We can write music for other things. We can never write music again. But when I realized that it was my choice to leave it behind and, you know, try something else or keep going and maybe still hurt a little while and figuring out whether or not I wanted to do this, that was my moment. You know, that was a good moment for me.
And isn't that just like about everything? Like, we're sort of scared with what's around the bend because we can't see it.
Yeah.
We've never done it, so it's like, I always ask people, like, when's the last time you really did something for the first time?
Right.
And a lot of people say, oh gosh, you know, not recently.
Yeah.
And it's because it can be scary, right? We
It is.
imagine all these things that could go wrong or might happen, and it's all like really false forecasting.
Yeah, yeah. And the older you get, I think it's even like, you know, it's kind of like when I was a kid, I rode BMX and I loved it. And
Really?
I rode with all the boys and I wasn't afraid of falling, and it was just fun. And now when I get on a bike now, I won't even ride without both my hands on the handlebars, you know. And I think there's just something to getting older that you have to, I don't know, you just have to trust that you've got it within yourself and not doubt too much. The doubting thing, man, it's...
Yeah, I heard a friend of mine say that kind of thinking is like experiencing failure in reverse.
Yeah, yeah.
There's like really no point to it because it hasn't happened yet.
Wow, that's a cool way to say it.
You know, so there are some things that you should worry about, you know, whether that's earthquake preparedness or whatever, you know, like you should be prepared for earthquake. But like, so if something hasn't happened yet, we shouldn't manufacture it in our minds until it happens. And then we can be scared of it and then deal with it, right?
Yeah, and that's hard. Like, I've never really struggled with anxiety until this past 2 years that I was telling you. I just felt like, what if I never make something that I love as much as the self-titled album? You know, what if our fourth album was our last album? There was even a moment where I thought it should be our last album because I don't want to make a fifth album and it suck. You know, I don't want to like disappoint myself more than I don't want to disappoint, you know, however many people that might buy it. I never made a fifth record before until me and my friends wrote it and recorded it. And it is funny what we tell ourselves. Yeah.
And I think that's the moment that we get stuck.
Yeah. It's paralyzing.
Yeah, it can be like analysis paralysis, like should I, shouldn't I? Or sometimes it's just like the fight or flight thing takes.
Yeah.
And we're like, I'm out.
Right.
I think I saw a really good TED Talk. Do you know Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you see this TED Talk where she talks about, you know, is our best work behind us?
I need to watch it. I haven't watched this.
So she, you know, she wrote that amazing book. It got made to a movie, and And then she's like, okay, then now what?
Damn, yeah, that's
and there's
scary.
all this pressure, right?
Yeah. I think the pressure that you put on yourself is worse than any, because every time we put out another album, we get asked in interviews, you know, what was the pressure like from your label to follow up the success of blah, blah, blah album? And I've never understood that. And I think, you know, maybe we're lucky to have a great relationship with our label in that sense, but the pressure came from us, like me, you know, just not wanting to disappoint myself or scare myself off.
But that's part of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like life, when we finally understand that there's good times and bad times, that like there's either life or there's hiding.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And so when we get comfortable with like, all right, bring it on, like what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. Then I think we truly start living the life that we have the potential to live, you know?
Yeah. Man, this is good. Can we do this once a week?
Yeah, let's.
I need a second therapist.
All right, maybe let's give some final words of advice to young entrepreneurs, you know, people who are in the struggle. Yeah. They admire you, they love what you've done, but, you know, they're also doing other things. So they're engineers, or they're writing code, or they're artists, or, you know, they love math, whatever it is. So, like, what's your advice to people doing cool stuff that might not work?
That might not work?
Well, that's the bottom line, right?
But what is not working?
Right. So maybe we can define that too. But it's all experimental. When we start new things, we don't know the outcome.
Right. Yeah.
If it was predictable, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
I really think that, I mean, for me, and I mean, this has nothing to do with the music business. This is just life. I think when I've felt something in my gut and I didn't follow that, I mean, I've paid for it every time. And so I try to really pay attention, because I think that we do know ourselves. We do know our passions and the things that might put us in danger. I mean, these are like instinctive things, you know. We know what we're capable of. And sometimes I think even when we know we might not be capable, we know when we can give it a shot and be all right, you know. And that's, I think, maybe the danger thing that I was talking about. But for me, following that gut feeling has even when it didn't work out or look the way I thought it would, has always paid off. And, you know, I mean, Paramore, we're on our 5th album. We've been a band since I was 13. I'm 28 now, and I'm still alive, you know. Been through a lot of pain, still alive. Started a new company. It's really scary, still alive. And I think that it's because I value that gut feeling, you know. So yeah, I guess I would just say, you'll know if it's worth going after or not. You'll know that, and if you don't, then you'll know when it's time to try something new. But it's not going to kill you.